I had almost forgotten about the incident that Sunday afternoon when I received a call from my mother-in-law. I answered distractedly, only to be surprised by the hostility in her voice. She said she was calling to apologize for what she had said on Sunday after Francis confronted her and told her that her words had hurt me. However, she added that I could have confronted her instead of running to him. She warned me that if I wanted to play that game, I wouldn't win. Francis was her son, and the fact that I had made him reprimand her didn't mean I had any power over him. I wasn't trying to come between them at all. I was simply upset by what she had said about me. It was completely untrue. My mother-in-law then told me that she wasn't going to waste time arguing about it and that someday I would understand why she had said what she did about me. Her words left me confused, making me wonder if there was something I was missing or if she was simply being rude and annoying because Francis defended me. I was surprised that he stood up for me, considering how much he adored his mother. I assumed he had just comforted me to calm things down, not that he had actually confronted her. The fact that he stood up to her makes me love him even more. That's why I am going to marry him. He makes me feel loved and protected, and I have felt that way since we started dating 3 years ago. When I met Francis, my self-esteem was at rock bottom. I had just broken up with my ex and was going through a tough time. I had stopped taking care of myself. No gym, no makeup, just going through the days without much effort, barely smiling. Then Valentine's Day came, and I was in a foul mood. The last thing I wanted was to see happy couples, flowers, and chocolates everywhere. I was sitting alone in a cafe reading when a man approached me. He asked if he could talk to me for a moment. I looked at him suspiciously without saying anything, but he continued. He said he had seen me from across the cafe and noticed that I looked sad. He said no beautiful woman deserved to look sad on Valentine's Day. Then he handed me a white lily and wished me a great day. I couldn't help but smile, my first smile of the day. He complimented my smile, and I told him that yes, I was having a terrible day, but his flower had made it better. We talked for a while, and then he went back to his table. After meeting him, I couldn't stop thinking about the handsome guy who had brightened my day. I tried to make that flower last as long as possible, but eventually, it withered, and my hope of seeing him again faded with it. I went back to the cafe hoping to see him, but I never found him, until one day I was on my way to work and saw a moving truck across the street. I barely paid attention until I heard a whistle. Instinctively, I turned toward the sound, and there he was, moving in across the street. Of all the coincidences, that was the biggest. He became my neighbor, and soon we started dating. Thanks to a series of fortunate events, I am now going to marry the love of my life, the man who restored my hope in love when I thought it was lost. Sometimes I think he was sent to me by something divine. Our meeting was just that perfect. Out of all the neighborhoods in the city, he ended up across the street. But of course, no love story is perfect, especially with his mother in the picture. She keeps planting doubts in my head, and lately, I can't help but wonder if our relationship is as perfect as I once thought. That's why I'm here. Is it right to let my mother-in-law make me doubt? If so, how can I stop it? Or am I just overthinking this whole situation? I don't know what to do, so please, help me with this. Update 1. 2 weeks later, I really feel stupid. Maybe my mother-in-law was right. How could I even think that a wonderful man like Francis could genuinely love me? I'm beginning to feel like I'm just a replacement for the girl he could never have, though part of me knows that isn't true. I'm torn between what I should believe, and I'm seriously considering whether I want to go through with this wedding or not. 2 weeks after hearing my mother-in-law's hurtful words, she invited me back to her house as a sort of peace offering, asking me to have coffee with her. Against my better judgment, I accepted. She suggested we leave the past behind and then spent the afternoon asking me questions, saying she wanted to get to know me better. It seemed like we were making progress until she asked if I wanted to see Francis's old room. I felt uncomfortable and told her it seemed too private, but she insisted it was silly to think that way, adding that maybe I'd discover more things about him. Curiosity got the best of me, and I decided to look at the room. It was pretty normal, and nothing really caught my attention until I found a drawer full of letters. I wasn't going to read any of them, but one letter sticking out caught my eye. The words, "My love, stood out. So, I read the first few lines, and I was stunned. Whoever wrote the letter had beautiful handwriting and expressed intense, sincere love for him. It talked about how she couldn't wait to marry him and have children, ending by saying how much she loved him. When I looked at the date, I was shocked. It was just a few months before Francis and I met. Who was this Maria, and why had I never heard of her? If she was just an ex-girlfriend, why hadn't he mentioned her? It didn't make sense. I tried not to overthink it and put the letters back, but that night I casually mentioned her name to Francis. His reaction was immediate. He got angry and demanded to know why I had been going through his things. I tried to explain that his mother had encouraged me, but he wouldn't listen. He said I wouldn't like it if he went through my private things and dismissed my concerns when I asked why Maria was writing to him so close to the date we started dating. He explained that it was a letter that arrived late due to a postal system backlog and that he hadn't received it until years after it was written. He said Maria was an old high school girlfriend he hadn't been in contact with for years, but he still couldn't believe I was jealous over an old letter. He accused me of having serious issues and said I needed to grow up, even going so far as to suggest he might postpone the wedding. He had never spoken to me so disrespectfully before. I know I was wrong to go through his things, but his lack of consideration hurt me, and his threat to postpone the wedding seemed suspicious. Did he still have feelings for her? Was I really wrong to want to know about this woman who was once so important in his life? Now I'm the one reconsidering the wedding. Clearly, I don't know Francis as well as I thought. Update 2. It's been a couple of days since my last update, and things have calmed down a bit. Francis and I didn't talk for a few days after I found the letters. Honestly, I had a lot on my mind, and I didn't think talking to him right away would help. So, I turned to my friends for advice, and everyone had different opinions on the situation. One friend thought I was overreacting. She pointed out that Francis's relationship with Maria happened years ago, and since he didn't know me back then, it shouldn't matter. Plus, I had no idea what he might have replied to her, and it's not like he was cheating on me. I understood her point, but I still didn't feel comfortable with him having kept those letters a secret. We had talked openly about our past relationships to avoid surprises, but he had never mentioned Maria's name. It made me wonder if he still had feelings for her, and that idea kept lingering in my mind. My friends advised me to have an honest conversation with him. They reminded me that I shouldn't approach him angry. Maybe there was a reason why he hadn't talked about her. Maybe she had broken his heart, and he didn't want to relive it. After thinking it over, I realized they were probably right. My recent mood swings and doubts about Francis seemed out of character for me. Maybe the stress of planning the wedding had me on edge. Still, my mother-in-law's words kept echoing in my head. She had planted this idea that he might still be in love with Maria and that I was just a replacement. A part of me even wanted to meet Maria to see her for myself, but stepping back, I reminded myself that I was the one with the ring, the one marrying him, not her. When I finally sat down with Francis, he was understanding and reassured me that he no longer saw Maria that way. He explained that he hadn't talked about her because their breakup was painful for him. Hearing that, I immediately felt terrible for doubting him. I apologized and told him I would do whatever it took to make it up to him. Francis was so understanding and kind. He acknowledged that I had been under a lot of stress lately and completely understood why I had reacted the way I did. Then he mentioned that his mother was probably to blame for the whole situation. She likely knew about the letters in his room and had intentionally led me there, hoping I would find them and cause friction between us. In that moment, everything made sense. It was just another one of her tactics. This time, though, I told him not to confront her. She probably just wanted to create drama between us, but her plan had failed. We are stronger now than ever. I almost can't believe I let myself be fooled by one of her tricks, especially when I thought she genuinely wanted to make peace. I don't understand why she dislikes me so much. I've always been kind and respectful to her and the whole family. I've never experienced this kind of friction with a partner's family before, so it's new and painful, especially since it's with the man I'm about to marry. But I'm determined not to let it affect me. I want to look forward to our wedding and our future together. Very soon, I'll be the luckiest woman in the world when we are declared husband and wife. Update 3. It's been a month, and I'm back with what might be the most devastating revelation yet. Remember when I thought Francis's mother was just jealous, trying to come between us? I take back every word. There was a reason for her jealousy, one that I can barely comprehend. I can't believe I was so blind, so utterly deceived by everything that was happening right in front of me. When she called me stupid, I think she had some truth to it because I was indeed blind to what was really going on. Everything fell apart a few days ago while Francis and I were finalizing the preparations for our wedding. We've been moving his things into my house since it's bigger and more suitable for starting our life together. I inherited it from my parents, and it's been perfect for us, or so I thought. Francis was at work, and I was supervising the movers when one of them accidentally dropped a box. Its contents scattered across the street, so I rushed to pick everything up, hoping nothing fragile had broken. That's when I saw them, photos scattered all over the road. I picked them up, and my heart stopped. They were photos of Francis and me, except it wasn't me. They were photos of Francis with someone who looked exactly like me. I looked at the back of one photo and saw the words, Francis and Maria, along with a date from 10 years ago. My mind started racing. This had to be the same Maria the first had found out about before, the one who wrote that letter. But why was she an identical image of me? I kept the photos and confronted Francis that night. When he came home from work, he was stunned to see that I had found them. When I demanded an explanation, he broke down. I had never seen him so vulnerable. Through tears, he told me that Maria, the woman in those photos, was no longer alive. She had died in a car accident several years ago, and that last letter I had seen was something he received long after her death. He admitted that he had loved her deeply and hadn't been able to cope with her loss. He confessed that he thought he was losing his mind from the grief until the day he saw me in that cafe. He explained that, though I was a little different, I was her exact replica. He knew he had to meet me to keep her memory alive in some way. That's why he approached me that day and even found a place to live across from mine. He said I was his second chance at love, a way to keep Maria alive. That's when it all clicked. The subtle changes, the way he had encouraged me to adopt a particular style, even the jewelry he gave me that I thought was simply his taste. Without realizing it, I had been dressing and molding myself into Maria's image, trying to immortalize her through me. And I realized something heartbreaking. He probably never loved me. He was still in love with Maria. In that moment, I felt a storm of emotions, anger, betrayal, and the painful realization that I had been a replacement all this time. I kicked him out of the house and told him I didn't want to see him again. For days, he's been trying to reach out, to explain, to apologize, but I can't bring myself to face him or listen to him. I've spent days crying, angry, and questioning everything about myself and my decisions. Now everything makes sense. Why Francis's mother called me stupid and warned me, and why Francis had never taken me to see his room. She knew I was a replacement for him, a shadow of Maria in his eyes. And now I feel like the biggest fool in the world, in love with a man who only saw someone else in me. This might be my last update. I don't know where to go from here, but I know one thing. I deserve real love, not to be someone else's memory.